and I tried to make them real characters living in the real world. The hero wasn't just a perfect guy, he was a fellow like me. He talks too much. He's a scientist, quite boring. He was always boring the others because when he explained anything, he went on forever, and one of the other guys was always saying, "Will you shut up?"
Fantastic Four is that one Marvel property that just couldn't catch a break in the movies. Well, their fortune has changed since the film rights have reverted back to Marvel. For those of you who love these characters, you can finally say that a good Fantastic Four adaptation exists. That is, of course, if you don't count The Incredibles. But in this video, I'm going to argue that Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer was actually legit. I thought it was funnier, more action-packed, and it included some of that cool comic book shit that was missing in the first one. Rise of the Silver Surfer might not have realized its full potential, but it at least showed us what was possible. Allow me to show some love to a forgotten comic book movie and show appreciation for how spot on this cast was. Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer is underrated. I have to go through an overview of the entire franchise so you can understand why I'm dead set on this revision. I hadn't watched Fantastic Four a long time before a couple of weeks ago when I revisited the movie. Now, while I cringed throughout my viewing of Fantastic Four, I actually found Rise of the Silver Surfer a pleasant watch. Shout out to the brother Tim Story. He directed both films. I think he's doing some really good work today. I really appreciated his latest movie, and he's got an Eddie Murphy joint coming out on Amazon this August. Fun fact about Tim Story: he's actually the first Black director to helm a major Marvel or comic book movie IP. And I find that significant because Black directors especially just weren't given these opportunities. Tim was discovered by then producer Avi Arad, who watched Barbershop and thought Tim would be perfect to helm this story. But the first movie is not perfect. Far from it. Fantastic Four starts off well enough. I would even say that the first half of this movie is actually good, and the performances are working for me. I really like Michael Chiklis' Ben Grimm because I thought that centering the story around him was smart and endearing. Seeing him react to his transformation and what he goes through was kind of heartbreaking. Michael does a solid job with his character. He feels the most human out of the entire cast. We're able to see past the fact that he's a dude made of rock. Unfortunately, after the exciting bridge incident and after they're dubbed the Fantastic Four, the movie goes downhill and it becomes the worst 2000 sitcom you've ever seen. To be fair, Chris Evans' mischievous Johnny did get a few chuckles out of me. Fantastic Four is just boring. You spend the entire middle of the movie jumping back and forth between whatever the fuck Victor Von Doom is doing, Johnny annoying the shit out of everybody, Ben not trying to beat the fuck out of Reed for not turning him back to human fast enough, and then you got Reed and Sue bickering back and forth trying to rekindle their relationship. Because we have this origin story that's trying to focus on multiple characters, you have to set up all these things. The film just feels scatterbrained, as if it doesn't know what it wants to do or is trying to give everybody equal amount of screen time, and it feels like it's just buying its time until the climax. And the only cool thing about this finale was the Thing saying his signature line.
No, Vic, it's clobbering time.
The performances were solid. The first half of the movie is actually decent, and then it all implodes, and then all of a sudden you're just like, damn, I don't want to finish this movie.
The obligatory teenager in the group, instead of just like Robin with Batman, who just runs around and fights the bad guys with him, I made this teenager a guy who didn't want to be a superhero particularly. He was like I would have been when I was a teenager. He wanted to go out with girls and ride a sport car and so forth.
Rise of the Silver Surfer brought back Tim Story as a director. It also brought back most of the cast, and they all reprised their roles. Even though the reception, both critical and audience, to the first film was lukewarm to terrible, Fox thought they made enough money to justify a sequel, and hopefully get things right. This time, they brought out the big guns by introducing one of Marvel's most popular characters, the Silver Surfer. The Surfer is played by legendary creature artist Doug Jones and voiced by Lawrence Fishburne. He was easily the coolest part about the movie. I grew up watching the Silver Surfer cartoon, so I really don't know a whole lot about the character outside of that. And even though he doesn't have a lot of screen time in this movie, I thought he made a strong impression. Even rewatching Rise of the Surfer now, I was actually surprised at how much of it really still holds up. I really like the chase sequence between the Surfer and Johnny. I thought that was pretty dope. And I like the fact that that encounter changes Johnny's powers, kind of sends him out of whack. I think Rise of the Silver Surfer really focused more on Johnny's character. And in this, it's kind of like a coming of age story for him, where he's kind of learning how to take some responsibility, how to be a part of a team. Johnny also wants to be taken seriously. He doesn't want to be known as just the hothead. He wants to take stock into things that really matter in life. And I think that through line pretty much is present throughout all the other characters in the movie. Just like Sue and Reed, how they're trying to figure out what does normalcy look like for them. And even with Ben Grimm, he's found happiness in his relationship with Alicia, played wonderfully by Kerry Washington. Okay, so I got a quick rant about Alicia's character. She was really bordering on the line of magical Negro. Now, it's not really that egregious because I actually did like her character, but she was just blind black woman who was the voice of reason and encouragement for the team, and really not much else outside of that. So it was hard not to notice, but I digress. I completely forgot that the Fantastic Car was in this movie, and I gotta say, it was pretty damn cool. I even like the way Johnny sort of absorbed everybody's powers in order to defeat Dr. Doom. That shit was tight, man. What can I say? I like this type of shit. That's the type of comic book shit we needed in the first film. Unfortunately, critics and audiences were still not fucking with these movies, and that disinterest reflected in the box office. So Fox just ended up canceling the planned Fantastic Four 3. And instead, they were like, you know why this movie failed? It was too lighthearted. It was too campy. It was too comic booky. We need to be dark as fuck.
Instead of an obligatory female who always has to be rescued and doesn't know who the hero really is, she was the hero's fiance. She knew who he was. They all knew who they were. And she also had a superpower that was as good as anyone else's. So she was a fighting member of the team.
Did y'all know that Fantastic is the worst Marvel comic book movie of all time? It has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's battling Shaquille O'Neal's Steel for the worst comic book movie ever made. What the fuck happened? I assume that after the success of Dark Knight and Man of Steel, Fox probably thought to themselves, you know what, we can do that. Let's take Fantastic Four and make a darker, more serious version of Fantastic Four. That sentence alone is an oxymoron, and what's especially insane is that The Incredibles exist. You had the blueprint right there. So they went and got Josh Trank to direct the new Fantastic Four movie, and in hindsight, that was a terrible idea. Josh Trank directed the very unique and dark superhero tale Chronicle for Fox, and they figured, oh, he's perfect, except Josh Trank is insane. He wanted to morph these characters into this dark science fiction anti-government story, which honestly sounds pretty cool if it wasn't Fantastic Four. There are theories online that Fox really just wanted to make another Fantastic Four movie so they can retain the rights to the property. Maybe they knew that they were going to be sold just 3 years later and so wanted to use the Fantastic Four as a bargaining chip. Either way, Josh Trank was just the wrong guy for this movie, and he admitted as much later on. He said that his version of Fantastic Four was a much darker movie, sort of a cross between Scanners and The Fly. What? I think it's pretty clear that Josh Trank was just disinterested in the superhero genre as a whole. When Fox saw his cut of the film, they fucking panicked. They tried to reshoot much of the movie without his involvement. When the movie finally released, it was universally rejected. I mean, Josh Trank had Victor Von Doom walking around exploding heads. Exploding heads. I mean, not gonna lie, it was kind of sick, but like, bro, not in a Fantastic Four movie.
And the fourth guy was a monster. Something had happened to him, and he became very ugly and incredibly strong. And I used him for both pathos and humor, because he was always fighting with the others, and not physically, but verbally, always insulting them and yelling at them, and he was hot-tempered. And he was always picking on the Human Torch, that was the teenager, who was always picking on him, and I got a lot of comedy out of them. I called him the Thing, and he became by far and away the most popular member of the group.
Looking back at this cursed franchise, I think Rise of the Silver Surfer was the one that they got right. And had they got an opportunity to really build off the things that they did right in that movie, maybe we wouldn't have gotten Josh Trank's vision. I honestly think that had it not been for Disney, Fantastic Four would be stuck in licensed IP hell. Because I imagine it's difficult to write a story about an ensemble superhero team. Because it's not just about Reed Richards, right? It's about everybody. How do you write a story where all these characters matter and that the audience care about them as individuals? How do you string together a compelling narrative and give us a compelling villain on top of that? I believe that Rise of the Silver Surfer came close to realizing that potential. Hey, and maybe Marvel's Fantastic Four First Steps can see it through fruition.